I'm Madison Walker, 33 years old, and seated at the garden table during my father's lavish birthday celebration. Funny how a family worth millions couldn't find room for their middle child inside. Years of rejection crystallized in that moment. The artist's daughter, the disappointment, the outsider. What they didn't know was that my helicopter was minutes away. The same helicopter purchased with money from my wildly successful career they refused to acknowledge. After decades of seeking their approval, I finally understood my worth. Let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button to follow my journey from family outcast to the moment I reclaimed my power. Growing up as a Walker in Greenwich, Connecticut meant something. At least, that's what my father Richard reminded us daily. Our sprawling colonial mansion with its manicured gardens and tennis courts was the physical manifestation of his climb from middle-class real estate agent to property mogul dominating the Northeast market. By the time I was 10, Walker Properties had offices in 7 states, and my father had transformed from the man who read me bedtime stories to someone obsessed with status, connections, and legacy. My mother Elaine complemented his ambition perfectly. The former beauty queen from Boston's elite social circle approached family life like a military campaign. Our appearances, activities, and achievements were carefully curated for maximum social impact. She hosted legendary galas where politicians and celebrities mingled, always ensuring we children were presented as the perfect Walker heirs. Well, 2 of us were. Preston, 2 years my senior, was my father's protege from the moment he could talk. His analytical mind and competitive nature mirrored our father's, and Richard groomed him relentlessly for succession. My sister Alana, for years younger, inherited our mother's classic beauty and social grace. She became Elaine's miniature version, learning the intricacies of social politics before she could even write her name. Then there was me, the middle child, with unruly red hair in a family of sleek brunettes. From my earliest memories, I gravitated toward colors, textures, and stories. While Preston built financial models with our father and Alana practiced piano for her recitals, I covered my bedroom walls with drawings and paintings that my mother would promptly remove during house tours. "Madison, darling, why can't you focus on something practical?" became her constant refrain. When I won my first art competition at 9, my father glanced at the blue ribbon and asked, "What's the monetary value of this achievement?" I didn't have an answer that would satisfy him. The family photos on our grand staircase told the story clearly. Preston in his sailing victories, Alana at debutante balls, and me, often awkwardly positioned at the edge, if included at all. For our annual Christmas card when I was 12, the photographer suggested I change my artistic outfit to match the family's coordinated attire. When I refused, insisting my identity mattered, I was simply excluded. My mother explained to relatives that I had been feeling unwell during the photo shoot. Gift-giving occasions highlighted the disparities further. On my 16th birthday, Preston received a BMW, while I unwrapped practical art supplies with my father's business card attached and a note. "Consider investing this talent in marketing for Walker Properties someday." That same year, Alana's Sweet 16 featured a performance by a popular boy band and gifts that included diamond earrings that had belonged to our grandmother. High school brought academic success in creative writing, studio art, and theater. Achievements that were deemed cute hobbies by my parents. Meanwhile, Preston's second-place finish in a regional debate tournament warranted a dinner celebration with extended family. When my artwork was selected for a young artists exhibition at the Whitney Museum, my parents declined to attend due to a critical business dinner that later appeared to be a casual gathering with neighbors on our mother's social media. The defining moment came during my senior year when college decisions arrived. I'd been accepted to Rhode Island School of Design with a partial scholarship, while also receiving an offer from my father's alma mater's business program. The choice seemed obvious to me. RISD represented everything I'd worked toward. Absolutely not, my father declared during a tense dinner. No child of mine will waste 4 years on finger painting when they could be building a future. Dad, RISD is one of the top art schools in the country, I argued. Their graduates go on to incredible careers. Waiting tables while trying to sell paintings no one wants, he scoffed. Walker Business School tuition or nothing. Your choice, Madison. I made my choice that night. The next morning, I packed 2 suitcases and moved to a cramped Brooklyn apartment with 3 roommates. My savings from summer jobs and small art sales would cover 2 months' rent. Beyond that, I had no plan except determination. The first holiday season away from home proved the finality of my decision. My tentative text about Thanksgiving plans received a formal response from my mother's assistant. The family would be in Aspen, and perhaps we could reconnect in the new year. Christmas brought a card with a small check, significantly less than my siblings' usual gifts, and a brochure for the business school's late enrollment options. At 18, I was effectively cut off from the Walker legacy, both financially and emotionally. As I sat alone in my cold apartment, eating ramen noodles while watching my family's European Christmas vacation unfold on social media, I made a promise to myself. Someday, they would regret underestimating Madison Walker. My first year at RSD passed in a sleep-deprived blur. While my classmates focused solely on their artistic development, my reality involved juggling 3 jobs around my class schedule. Mornings began at 5 a.m. at a local coffee shop, where I memorized regular customers' orders and collected tips that paid for art supplies. Afternoons found me assisting at a small gallery in Providence, cataloging artwork and learning the business side of the art world firsthand. Weekends and evenings, I drove for a rideshare company, using the long hours behind the wheel to mentally plan my next projects. My tiny apartment became my sanctuary and studio, with canvases propped against every available surface. Sleep was a luxury I rarely afforded myself, typically collapsing for 4 hours before starting the cycle again. The physical exhaustion was constant, but for the first time in my life, I felt authentic. Every brushstroke, every color choice, every composition was mine alone, no parental approval required. During my second year, fate intervened in the form of Greta Hayes, a visiting lecturer whose Greenwich Gallery represented emerging contemporary artists. After my presentation in her masterclass, she approached me with narrowed eyes and direct questions about my influences and intentions. "Your technique is solid, but there's something urgent in your work," she observed. "You're painting like someone's chasing you." "Maybe I am," I admitted. Greta became my first real mentor, offering brutal critiques and occasional praise that meant more than any validation I'd sought from my parents. When a minor reality TV celebrity purchased one of my paintings from a student exhibition, Greta ensured the sale received press coverage in art blogs. The $3,000 allowed me to reduce one of my jobs and focus more on developing my distinct style. By graduation, I created a body of work that combined traditional painting techniques with subtle narrative elements, stories embedded within seemingly abstract compositions. Greta offered me something beyond my wildest expectations, a small solo show at her Providence satellite gallery. "It won't make you rich," she warned, "but it will get your name in the conversation." The show sold moderately well but generated critical attention. A reviewer from an influential online art publication described my work as deceptively accessible while harboring complex emotional landscapes. I framed the review and hung it above my desk, a reminder that someone understood what I was trying to communicate. Despite this early recognition, financial stability remained elusive. I moved to a slightly better apartment, but continued working multiple jobs while building an online presence. My Instagram account featuring process videos and finished pieces slowly gained followers, particularly among tech-savvy art enthusiasts who appreciated my experimentation with digital elements incorporated into traditional media. This hybrid approach caught the attention of Sophia Richardson, founder of an innovative design company creating immersive digital experiences for corporate clients. After following my work online for months, she invited me to coffee and offered a proposition that would change my trajectory. "We need someone who thinks differently," she explained. "Someone who understands both tangible aesthetics and digital possibilities. Your art does that." The job offer came with a salary that equaled 3 years of my current income combined. Still, I hesitated, fearing that entering the corporate world would mean abandoning my artistic integrity. Exactly what my father had predicted. This isn't selling out, Greta advised when I consulted her. It's expanding your canvas. Take their money, learn their systems, and keep creating your personal work on the side. Art needs patrons. It always has. I accepted the position with Richardson Designs as a junior creative consultant. Within 6 months, my unconventional approaches to client challenges earned me a promotion. By the end of my first year, my team's immersive installation for a major technology conference had gone viral, bringing unprecedented attention to both the client and our firm. Sophia recognized my value and continued to promote me rapidly. My first substantial bonus allowed me to pay off my student loans entirely, a financial freedom that felt revolutionary. I upgraded to a proper one-bedroom apartment with north-facing windows perfect for a painting studio. For the first time, I bought furniture that wasn't secondhand and art supplies without checking price tags first. Throughout this professional ascent, my relationship with my family remained fractured. Occasional text exchanges with my mother maintained a superficial connection. Alana sometimes liked my Instagram posts but never commented. My father and Preston remained complete strangers to my new life. When I received my promotion to design director, I sent my mother a brief email sharing the news. Her response, "That's nice, dear. Preston has just acquired a development property in Boston," reminded me that in the Walker hierarchy, my achievements would always be secondary. 5 years after joining Richardson Designs, my business card read, Madison Walker, Executive Creative Director. My team had grown from 3 people to 37, occupying an entire floor of our Manhattan office. The interactive installations we created blended physical art with cutting-edge technology, creating experiences that transported viewers and transformed spaces. Major museums around the world featured my work. The Guggenheim, Tate Modern, National Gallery of Victoria, and Maury Building Digital Art Museum all hosted permanent or traveling exhibitions bearing my signature style. Forbes magazine placed me on their prestigious 40 Under 40 list, with a feature that highlighted my journey from art school graduate to industry innovator. The article mentioned my family background briefly, noting that I had forged my own path away from my family's real estate empire, a diplomatic understatement that made me laugh bitterly when I read it. My most significant innovation, a proprietary technology allowing art installations to respond to viewers' emotional states through subtle biometric readings, became Richardson Designs' most lucrative patent. My share of the licensing agreements generated more wealth than I had ever imagined possessing. With financial security came certain indulgences. My apartment in Tribeca featured floor-to-ceiling windows and a dedicated studio space. My wardrobe evolved from thrift store finds to designer pieces that expressed my artistic sensibility rather than conforming to corporate expectations. And then there was the helicopter, a custom Augusta AW109 with the Richardson Designs logo and my signature color palette. Initially, the aircraft was a practical decision for commuting between our offices in New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. Flying above traffic saved valuable hours each week. But I couldn't deny the symbolic weight of the purchase. The little girl whose art was deemed worthless now literally soared above the constraints that had once defined her. Learning to pilot it myself became a personal challenge, the ultimate expression of controlling my own journey. Yet despite external success, personal fulfillment remained elusive. My dating history resembled a case study in disappointing connections. There was Blake, the investment banker, who seemed supportive until he began using our relationship to pitch services to my business contacts. Rachel introduced me to Edwin, a fellow artist who initially seemed to understand my creative drive but grew resentful of my commercial success. Simone, a brilliant architect, shared my aesthetic sensibilities but couldn't comprehend why family reconciliation mattered to me. After each relationship ended, I found myself alone in my beautiful apartment, surrounded by accolades, but aching with a familiar emptiness. Dr. Bennett, the therapist I finally consulted after a particularly devastating breakup, helped me recognize the pattern. "You've proven your worth professionally," she observed during one session. "But you're still seeking validation from the same source that withheld it, your family. Their rejection continues to define your self-perception." Despite this insight, I couldn't stop my periodic attempts at reconnection. I sent thoughtfully selected birthday gifts, a rare first edition economics text for my father, antique jewelry for my mother, premium sports tickets for Preston. Most went unacknowledged, though my mother occasionally sent brief thank you notes on her monogrammed stationery. I mailed invitations to every major exhibition opening, each time convincing myself that perhaps this achievement would finally break through their indifference. The invitations returned unopened or simply generated silence. For my 30th birthday, Sophia organized a surprise celebration at the Museum of Modern Art, renting an entire gallery wing for the evening. I spent weeks deliberating before sending invitations to my family, only to receive formal regrets citing prior commitments. 2 years ago, during a moment of holiday nostalgia, I accepted my mother's lukewarm invitation to join the family Christmas gathering at their winter home in Vermont. The attempt at reconciliation disintegrated within hours of my arrival. "So you're still playing with computers," my father remarked after I described our latest museum installation. "It's actually a combination of traditional artistic techniques and proprietary technology," I explained, trying to maintain composure. The Guggenheim installation generated their highest attendance numbers in 5 years. Well, Preston interjected with a smirk. "Looks like little Maddie is finally earning some pocket money with her drawings." The evening deteriorated further when my mother pulled me aside before dinner, ostensibly to help with place settings, but actually to critique my appearance. "Couldn't you have worn something more conventional?" she whispered, eyeing my designer jumpsuit with obvious disapproval. "The Harringtons will be joining us, and their son Thomas is recently divorced. Your sister tells me you're still single." I left the next morning before breakfast, declining the driver my mother offered, and instead calling a rideshare to the airport. During the flight back to New York, I made a promise to myself: no more seeking approval from people who fundamentally misunderstood my value. The cycle of hope and rejection had to end. The invitation arrived on heavy cream cardstock, embossed with the Walker family crest. Richard Walker's 65th birthday celebration, it announced in elegant script, requesting the pleasure of my company at our family estate. The formal language concealed the surprise I felt seeing my name included at all. After the Christmas disaster and 2 years of minimal contact, why invite me now? The envelope included a handwritten note from my mother. "Madison, your father specifically requested your attendance. We do hope you can join the family for this milestone occasion." Her precise handwriting revealed nothing beyond polite expectation. For days, I carried the invitation in my bag, removing it periodically to confirm it was real. During a lunch meeting, Sophia noticed my distraction. "What's bothering you? You've checked your phone 20 times in 10 minutes. I showed her the invitation, explaining the complicated history. "I don't know why they want me there now. Nothing's changed." "Maybe something has," she suggested. "People sometimes reassess priorities at milestone birthdays." That evening, I called Rachel, my closest friend since art school days and the one person who had witnessed my family dynamics firsthand during our college years. "They're toxic, Maddie," she said bluntly after listening to my conflicted feelings. "But I understand why you're considering it. Just be clear. This isn't about reconciliation. It's about closure. Go in with zero expectations and strong boundaries." My weekly session with Dr. Bennett provided additional perspective. "What would constitute a successful visit in your mind?" she asked. I considered this carefully. Being treated with basic respect. Acknowledgement of my life choices as valid. Not being compared unfavorably to Preston and Alana. "Those are reasonable desires," she nodded. "But based on their historical behavior, are they realistic expectations?" "Probably not," I admitted. "Then let's establish parameters for your self-protection. What will you do if those boundaries are crossed?" Together, we develop strategies, limiting my stay to the event itself rather than overnight, arranging my own transportation, preparing neutral responses to potential provocations, and most importantly, giving myself permission to leave if the situation became unhealthy. The transportation questions sparked an idea. I had a critical client meeting in Chicago the morning of the birthday celebration, but could potentially make it to Connecticut by late afternoon. The helicopter would be necessary logistically, but it would also make a statement. Not as revenge, I told myself, but as an honest representation of the life I'd built without their support. The week before the event, I devoted unusual attention to selecting my outfit. After discarding options that seemed either too eager to please or deliberately provocative, I settled on a custom-tailored pantsuit in deep emerald that complemented my coloring, professional without being corporate, artistic without being flamboyant. For my father's gift, I commissioned a small bronze sculpture from an artist I discovered and mentored, a piece representing strength emerging from constraint. The symbolism wasn't subtle, but it was authentic. Greta called the night before as I was second-guessing my decision to attend. "Family wounds are the deepest," she said, her usual briskness softened. "But you've built your life on your own terms. Nothing they say or do tomorrow changes what you've accomplished." Despite these preparations, panic struck at midnight. Lying awake, I catastrophized every potential scenario. Public humiliation, dismissive comments, being seated at a distant table while Preston and Alana flanked our parents. By morning, I'd nearly convinced myself to send regrets. As I brushed my teeth, I found myself staring at my reflection, no longer the uncertain teenager who'd left home with 2 suitcases, but a woman who'd created her own definition of success. I touched the small tattoo on my wrist, the only visible reminder of my darkest days after leaving home, a phoenix in flight. "You've earned your place," I told my reflection. "Not at their table, but in the world." My pilot confirmed our schedule, Chicago meeting until 2, arriving in Connecticut by 4:30, in time for the 5 o'clock celebration. Everything was arranged when a text from Alana appeared on my phone. "Just FYI, you're seated in the garden section. Thought you should know before you arrive." No explanation, no apology. Just confirmation that after 15 years of building a life that even Forbes had deemed exceptional, I remained an afterthought to my own family. The Walker estate hadn't changed. The same imposing colonial facade, manicured gardens, and circular driveway where luxury vehicles now parked in neat rows. I instructed my cab driver to stop at the gate, preferring to walk the long driveway and collect myself before facing the assembled guests. My mother spotted me immediately, her practiced smile barely masking her surprise at my appearance. "Madison, you're here. How unexpected." She air-kissed my cheeks, careful not to disturb her makeup. "We thought you might cancel given your busy schedule." "I rearranged some meetings," I replied. "Dad's 65th birthday seemed important." "Yes, well, he'll be pleased you made the effort." Her eyes darted over my shoulder. The Wainwrights have arrived. Do excuse me." I navigated the periphery of the gathering, accepting flutes of champagne from passing servers while observing the familiar choreography of wealth and status. Aunt Catherine approached with exaggerated surprise. "Madison, goodness, we weren't sure you'd actually come. Your mother mentioned you were invited, but given your estrangement, we assumed you'd decline." "I wouldn't miss Dad's milestone birthday," I responded evenly. "How dedicated," she murmured before lowering her voice. "Though between us, Richard was quite ambivalent about including you. Elaine insisted for appearance's sake." Before I could respond, Preston materialized with a striking blonde woman clutching his arm. "Little sister," he announced with theatrical enthusiasm. "Slumming with the capitalists today? Allow me to introduce my fiancée, Danielle Westbrook. Her father chairs the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston." Danielle assessed me with the practiced evaluation of someone raised in privilege. "Preston mentioned you do something with computers and art? How fascinating." "Madison creates digital installations," Preston corrected with a condescending smile. "Very trendy right now." "My work was recently acquired by the Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection," I added quietly.
"Hardly a trend."
Preston's smile tightened. Always the modest one. "Come, Danielle. Father's looking for us." Alana appeared next, impeccably styled and visibly uncomfortable. "You look good, Maddie," she offered, using my childhood nickname for the first time in years. "I like the suit." "Thanks for the text," I said. What exactly is the garden section? She winced. Mother rearranged the seating yesterday. You're at a table on the terrace, while the main party is in the ballroom. I tried to change it, but she insisted the tables were balanced for optimal conversation. Of course she did. I'm sorry, Alana whispered, glancing nervously toward our mother across the room. For what it's worth, I fought for you. A butler announced dinner, directing guests toward the grand ballroom. Following the crowd, I discovered what garden section truly meant, a single small table positioned outside the French doors on the stone terrace, physically separated from the rest of the celebration. My name card sat alone at a table meant for four. Through the glass doors, I watched families and friends settling at elegantly appointed tables. My father occupied the center position at the main table, flanked by Preston and Alana, with my mother beside Preston's fiancé. The symbolism couldn't have been clearer. A server approached apologetically. Ms. Walker, we'll be serving your courses separately. Would you prefer red or white wine? Dignity intact, I requested water instead and watched through the windows as my father stood to welcome his guests. His voice carried faintly through the glass. Elaine and I are overwhelmed by your presence today. Family has always been my greatest achievement, the true Walker legacy. He gestured to Preston and Alana beside him. Our children who have embraced family values and continue our traditions make this milestone truly meaningful. I sipped my water, invisible beyond the glass. The indignities continued throughout dinner. When Cousin Barbara spotted me during a trip to the restroom, she paused at my solitary table. Are you out here because of allergies? Your mother mentioned something about needing fresh air. Later, I overheard Mother explaining to curious guests, Madison prefers unconventional settings. She's rather bohemian, you know. All those years in artist communes. My father's best friend, Uncle Frank, ventured outside briefly with scotch in hand. Quite something you've made of yourself, Madison. Richard doesn't say much, but I follow business news. Surprising success, given your unconventional choices. As dessert was served inside, Preston rose for another toast, champagne flute held high. To continuing the Walker legacy of excellence, he proclaimed, looking directly at me through the window. Some understand the value of family tradition. Others must find their own way. The photographer gathering family members for pictures deliberately avoided eye contact as he arranged my parents with Preston, Danielle, and Alana for what he called the immediate family portrait. The final humiliation came during the cake presentation, an elaborate multi-tiered creation wheeled in with sparklers. As guests gathered to watch Richard blow out symbolic candles, my mother spotted me observing through the glass. Madison, darling, she called through the partially open door. Would you mind stepping aside? You're blocking the view for the Thompsons. Something crystallized in that moment, a perfect clarity I'd been approaching for years. Nothing would ever change. No achievement, no success, no recognition from the outside world would alter my position in the Walker family hierarchy. I would always be the inconvenient middle child, the artistic disappointment, the one relegated to watching through windows. With calm determination, I placed my napkin beside my half-eaten dessert and walked away from the table. Instead of heading toward the parking area, I circled the estate grounds toward the expansive rear lawn, the only space large enough for what came next. Pulling out my phone, I texted my pilot a single word. Now. Standing alone on the vast green expanse, I felt a peculiar lightness. For 15 years, I'd carried the weight of seeking validation from people constitutionally incapable of providing it. As I waited, I finally set down that burden. The distinctive whir of helicopter blades cut through the evening air, drawing attention from the celebration inside. My custom Augusta AW109 appeared over the tree line, its sleek profile unmistakable against the sunset sky. The Richardson Designs logo gleamed on its side, alongside the distinctive color gradient I'd chosen to represent our brand identity. Guests began to notice, conversations pausing as heads turned toward the windows. The helicopter circled once before beginning its descent onto the vast lawn, a landing area more than adequate for safe touchdown. My pilot executed a perfect landing, the downwash creating gentle ripples across the manicured grass. Inside the ballroom, the birthday celebration had paused entirely. Faces pressed against windows, drinks forgotten in hands as the unexpected aircraft settled on Walker property. My father emerged first, his celebration forgotten as he strode across the terrace, face flushed with anger. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, reaching the edge of the lawn as I walked toward the helicopter. "You can't land that thing here, without permission." I turned, composed and confident. "I have an important client meeting in Boston tonight. I mentioned this possibility when I RSVP'd, but perhaps that detail wasn't important enough to remember." "You could have parked it somewhere appropriate and taken a car like everyone else," he sputtered. "Actually, I couldn't. The meeting was moved up." I maintained steady eye contact. Besides, this seemed more efficient than calling another cab and waiting at your gate again. By now, guests had spilled onto the terrace, my mother hurrying across the grass with remarkable speed given her heels. Preston followed close behind, his expression shifting from annoyance to calculation as he assessed the aircraft. "You never mentioned owning a helicopter," he said, the accusation clear in his tone. "You never asked about my life," I replied simply. My father, recognizing the growing audience, attempted to regain control of the situation. "Everyone, please return to the celebration. My daughter Madison has an unexpected business emergency." His voice shifted as he turned to the crowd, suddenly proud. "As you can see, she's become quite successful in her digital art venture." The transparent attempt to claim credit for my success after years of dismissal solidified my resolve. This moment wouldn't be co-opted for his narrative. "Dad," I said clearly, ensuring my voice carried to the assembled onlookers, "let's be honest with each other finally. You didn't invite me here to celebrate with you. I was seated outside, alone, because I've never fit your vision of what a Walker should be. I accepted that long ago." "This is hardly the time," my mother began, but I continued. "I left home at 18 because you made it clear my passion had no value. I worked 3 jobs while studying, slept 4 hours a night for years, and built my career without a single dollar of family support. The company I helped build now employs over 200 people. My art hangs in museums worldwide." "And we're very proud," my father interjected, glancing nervously at his guests. "No, you're not," I corrected gently. "You're embarrassed that I succeeded on my own terms. You're uncomfortable because my success challenges your belief that there's only one right path, your path." Preston stepped forward. Always the drama queen. "This is Dad's birthday, not your therapy session. You're right about one thing, this isn't about therapy. It's about clarity." I turned back to my father. "I spent 15 years seeking your approval, sending invitations you ignored, reaching out on holidays to be rejected. Today, seeing me seated outside while the real family celebrated inside, I finally understood. Nothing I achieve will ever be enough." My mother's perfect composure cracked slightly. "Madison, you're making a scene?" "I'm making an exit," I corrected. "I brought you a gift, Dad." I retrieved the carefully wrapped package from my bag. It's an original artwork. A miniature bronze of our family home created by an artist I mentor. The gallery values it at approximately $100,000. Consider it my final attempt at connection. I placed the package in his hands. "I won't be reaching out again. The constant rejection isn't healthy for any of us." My father's face flushed deep red. "So, you fly in with your fancy helicopter to show off and then announce you're cutting us off? Typical self-centered artist behavior."
No, Dad.
"I'm acknowledging reality. You cut me off 15 years ago when I chose art school. I'm just finally accepting your decision." My mother's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide her shock. "You can't possibly mean that. We're family. Family should love unconditionally. You taught me that my worth was tied to compliance with your expectations. That's not love, it's control." Across the gathering, I spotted Aunt Julia, my father's sister, and the only relative who had quietly supported my artistic pursuits, sending occasional cards, and attending one of my early gallery showings. "Aunt Julia," I called, I'm heading to Boston for the evening. There's room if you'd like to join me. My father scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. Julia wouldn't. I'd love to see your Boston installation, Aunt Julia interrupted, already walking toward us. At 68, her determined stride belied her age. I've been reading about it in the Times art section. The symbolic weight of her choice, the first family member to publicly choose my side, wasn't lost on anyone present. As she reached me, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "It's about time, sweetheart." Together, we walked toward the waiting helicopter. I didn't look back at the tableau we left behind. My father clutching the unwrapped bronze, my mother frozen in disbelief, Preston calculating how this scene would affect family dynamics, and Alana watching with conflicted emotions visible even from a distance. The pilot helped Aunt Julia aboard while I paused at the doorway, taking one final look at the Walker estate, the prison of expectations I'd spent my adult life trying to escape. As the rotors increased their tempo, I felt the physical manifestation of what emotional freedom might feel like, rising above, seeing the complete picture from a new perspective, and finally, genuinely, moving forward. 2 years have passed since the helicopter departure that became Walker family legend. According to Aunt Julia, who has become a regular visitor to my New York apartment, the story still circulates at Connecticut social events, growing more dramatic with each retelling. Some versions claim I arrived with a full camera crew documenting the confrontation. Others insist I scattered my father's precious birthday cards across the lawn in the helicopter's downwash. The truth was far simpler yet more profound. I finally accepted that some family wounds never heal because the injured party is the only one acknowledging the pain. The first months after my declaration of independence were surprisingly difficult. Despite intellectually understanding that I'd made the healthy choice, emotionally I experienced waves of grief. Dr. Bennett helped me recognize this as mourning, not for the family I had, but for the family I'd always wished for. "You're grieving the fantasy," she explained during an intensive therapy session. "The loving, supportive parents who would celebrate your unique gifts. The siblings who would champion your success. That family never existed except in your hopes." Accepting this truth proved liberating. Instead of continuing to seek validation from those unwilling to provide it, I redirected that energy toward building meaningful connections with people who valued me completely. Aunt Julia became the maternal figure I'd craved, her weekly calls and monthly visits providing the familial connection without toxic conditions. At 70, she began taking art classes, discovering her own creative voice that had been suppressed by family expectations. "We're reclaiming our authentic selves together," she declared during her first gallery showing, where her watercolors sold surprisingly well. 6 months after the birthday incident, I received an unexpected text from Alana. "Can we meet? Just us." Over coffee in neutral territory, a Manhattan cafe far from family influence, my sister revealed her own struggles with our parents' expectations. "Watching you fly away that day changed something for me," she admitted. "I realized I've been living Mother's vision for my life, not my own." Our relationship remains cautious, but evolving. Monthly sister dinners have become a tradition, creating space for honest conversations about our shared past and divergent futures. Alana recently declined joining the Walker Properties Board, instead pursuing graduate studies in environmental science, a decision that caused considerable family friction but strengthened our connection. My parents and Preston maintain their silence. According to Alana, my name rarely emerges in family conversations, as though my existence has been carefully excised from the Walker narrative. The sharp pain of this erasure has dulled over time, replaced by acceptance and occasional waves of compassion for people so constrained by their own narrow definitions of success. Professional success continues, but with new purpose. Last year, I launched the Walker Foundation for Artistic Development, providing scholarships and mentorship to young artists from unsupportive family environments. The application includes no financial requirements but asks candidates to describe how they've maintained artistic integrity despite obstacles. Each quarter, we select 10 artists who receive not only funding but integration into a community that understands their journey. The mentorship program within the foundation bears Greta's name, honoring her guidance during my formative years. Though now in her 70s, she actively participates in selecting candidates, bringing her characteristic blonde assessment and uncanny ability to spot genuine talent. Perhaps the most unexpected development in my post-helicopter life is Gabriel, a children's book author I met during a foundation fundraiser. Unlike previous relationships, our connection formed without the undercurrent of my family wounds. His quiet confidence and genuine interest in my complete self, not just my professional achievements or family background, created space for authentic vulnerability. "You're not defined by their rejection," he observed during an early conversation about my family. "You're defined by how you've transformed that rejection into compassion for others facing similar struggles." Last month, Gabriel proposed on the rooftop of my apartment building, the Manhattan skyline witnessing our commitment to building a partnership based on mutual respect and unconditional support, the foundation I never experienced growing up but now understand is essential. The journey from family outsider to self-acceptance hasn't been linear. Some days still bring echoes of old insecurities, questions about inherent worthiness, moments of wondering if different choices might have preserved family bonds. Dr. Bennett calls these aftershocks of long-term emotional trauma, normal responses that diminish with continued healing. What I've learned with absolute certainty is that family can be chosen, created, and nurtured beyond biological connections. The tapestry of support I've woven. Aunt Julia, Greta, Alana, Gabriel, my foundation artists, and loyal friends, provides richer sustenance than the conditional approval I once desperately sought. The helicopter that caused such scandal now serves a different purpose. Twice monthly, I fly young artists from underserved communities to major museums, galleries, and creative spaces they might otherwise never experience. Watching their eyes widen as the city unfolds beneath them, I'm reminded that true legacy isn't about maintaining traditions or appearances. It's about creating ripples of positive impact that extend beyond our individual lives. Sometimes the most powerful act isn't proving your worth to those who devalued you. It's recognizing that your worth was never theirs to determine in the first place. Freedom comes in releasing the need for validation from those incapable of providing it, and instead building a life aligned with your authentic self. Have you ever had to walk away from relationships that couldn't accept your true self? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please subscribe for more authentic conversations about family dynamics, healing, and personal growth. Hit that like button if this journey resonated with you, and share with someone who might need permission to prioritize their well-being over painful family expectations. Thank you for witnessing my story. Remember that sometimes the family we create matters infinitely more than the family we're born into.